news like this isn't something I would believe, but hearing it on broadcast radio of all places, I said, okay, let me look this up because this has got to be fake. And it wasn't. Hey guys, it's me, Derek, the review, back again with another video. So, we just got an announcement that we're actually getting a Spaceballs sequel, which, to be fair, I would say, yeah, it's a little bit far too late, which, if I'm going to be honest with you, this whole idea of a Spaceballs sequel coming out now is something I feel like there was a chance back in the day to do it, but I feel like with all the parody movies in this way, I could say, because if you don't know, Spaceball is a movie directed by Mel Brooks. He brought us Victor Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles. I could just say, for the style of comedy that there was in those movies, I'm like, yeah, they don't make them nowadays like they used to. Nowadays, spoof movies are just riffs on movies, but trying to be not paying homage or making fun of them, but just using them as references and actually involving characters without actually understanding the point of those characters. If I'm gonna be honest, the most recent spoof movie, I feel like, okay, they focused on one movie, a number of them in that franchise, but at least they cut off before it actually went off the rails with Superfast, which was a spin on Fast and Furious. And I can just say the cast in that movie too almost tried to resemble their characters. And funny enough, they didn't even use the characters' names; they actually used the actors. But my thing with the Spaceball sequel coming out now is that there's a lot of Star Wars stuff that's come out recently since we already know that the first movie actually did a riff on the original trilogy. The second one could have happened because I feel like they did tease it off because they did say that we'll be back at Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money. That didn't happen, and at least it kept the movie as a classic as it was. But seeing a sequel now after all the resurgence with Star Wars and seeing a little bit of what fans loved and what fans hated, because I feel like, okay, now that we're going back to this world and these characters, there are a couple things I would want to see, but there are a couple things I feel like are going to be left out of it. The first thing confirmed is that Rick Moranis is coming back as Lord Helmet, which I got to say, it's been a couple years, really, since he's been coming to acting. I thought he would have came back for a Ghostbusters sequel, but he didn't. It's gonna be good to see him under the mask, and also funny enough, they did put out a poster look of what that mask is like now, which I kind of find funny that it's just old, rusted, and has a little bit of a band-aid covering, which I'm like, yeah, if the mask looks like that for the whole movie, I wouldn't be mad for a little design update, but also I don't even know if it's also gonna make fun of the fact that Kylo Ren is also a thing in Star Wars, which the mask is Darth Vader. I don't know if it's gonna be doing something completely different with that, but that'd be fun to see. Another thing is that this time you also have half the main crew because the late John Candy passed away in the 90s, and Joan Rivers recently passed away a couple of years ago. Lone Star and Princess Vespa are the only ones left. And also, funny enough, I feel like this is also going to be another comeback, which I feel like if they're going to be doing a riff on Star Wars, you might as well do the Han Solo, Ben Solo dynamic, which also, if they're going to riff on the recent Star Wars movies, it'd be funny if you have Bill Pullman as Lone Star and his son Lewis Pullman. The fact that we're actually seeing him in movies, we just saw him in Top Gun, and we just recently saw him in Sentry. I wouldn't even be surprised if he is in this movie doing a riff on Ben Solo, Kylo Ren. Either he's going to be a villain or a good guy. That'd be funny to see. Also, the fact that we're aware of our characters last left off because I feel like, yeah, Lone Star and Vespa got married at the end of that movie. They must be ruling some sort of galaxy out there or their empire. Also, if Spaceball 1 is still going to be in orbit because I know it blew up. But then again, you got to remember that the head actually blew off and fell onto the planet of the apes, which I don't even know if they're allowed to touch those characters anymore because I know they're with Disney. Or even if they're going to make fun of the fact that, yeah, just because these characters land off here, and we did kind of see apes actually look at Spaceballs come out of the nose. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like since they are going to be riffing on sequels and I assume reboots, it'd be funny to say that, oh, in the first movie we saw them in the original monkey suits, but now that we're going to see them now, are they going to either be CGI or still be a little bit of the same costumes, but more of a little bit of that Tim Burton style, if you know what I mean? Other than that, I'm here to just say a Spaceball sequel is happening, and hopefully enough it's good, because I feel like, yeah, it's kind of interesting announcing this now because also I didn't even key factor this, but also Mel Brooks is nearly 100 years old, and the fact that he's still directing. I know the last thing he did was History of the World Part Two, which it's funny enough that they actually worked that out as a show instead of a movie, which I appreciate because there was more time to actually go through the worlds, Jews in space, and stuff like that. But seeing this in theaters for the most part instead of a streaming release, because I feel like most comedies aren't available in theaters. We'll see what happens with Naked Gun because I feel like that's the one movie I'm like, yeah, if this movie works, then the whole spoof formula movie can come back. But also, Scary Movie 6 is coming out next year. I'm like, okay, so we have at least 3 straight years of spoof movies coming in, and I hope that it could actually prove that, yeah, not just spoof movies, but also comedies in general could work still in theaters. And I don't mean movies with comedy sprinkled in there. I'm talking about actual comedies that we used to have in the early 90s, the 2000s, and the early 2010s for the most part. I'd like to see him come back personally, but now that we're getting a Spaceball sequel, hopefully that's going to be the one. Alright, guys, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. All my social media is down in the description below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.